I'm just going to preface this and say that this is going to be out of sync. I don't know how it's all worked really, and this is literally the first time I'm trying to do these vlogs, so this is day 3, which will be the first video, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? 1 and 2 might come out at some point, but yeah. Just trying to say, before you get confused when I say this is day 3, it is day 3, but it's the first video, so yeah. Hello everyone, welcome back to Malta, day number 3. At Medina with the wind blowing. It's warmer than yesterday, but it's still a 30-mile-an-hour gusty wind, so I hope it matters. Just finish off the time-lapse down, overlooking the church we went to yesterday. We've got amazing viewpoints over the whole island, which is great. So finish off that. The technique I want to show you in today's video, I've tried it before, it's not worked very well, but there's a little known trick that you can import video, not trick, but not many people know that you can import video into Photoshop, and you can use your filters, I think you can use Camera Raw filters in Photoshop, so pause for the wind. So yeah, you can import video into Photoshop and use your filters. So you can also use masking and layer masks and luminosity masks. So what I've been trying to do is, when I see like this, let me show you. So I'm shooting down there towards the church. It looks quite nice, but there's no detail in the sky really. They've probably only got about that much in the frame at the moment on the Lumix, on the long lens over there. So there's no real detail in the sky. However, if we go over there, see over there, there's some clouds over there. With the wind, there's some lovely big like storm clouds and a bit of a frontal system over there, and they look fantastic, but that's not in the shot obviously. So what I'm thinking of doing is, with this camera, I'm going to do another time lapse, same speed, about 2 second interval on that, and shoot in that direction where the nice clouds are, and try and use the horizon. We've got a perfect clean horizon with the ocean. Use that to layer in a different sky. So you've seen landscape photographers, you've seen architectural photographers use sky replacements to make their skies in still images better. What I'm thinking of doing is doing that for time-lapse and for video. I'm sure it's been done for video before, I've not seen it used for time-lapse. So it may work, I hope it will work, because it needs a bit more interest in the sky over there. And if we shoot in that direction, we'll still get the light the same. Because if I shoot back towards me, there's some amazing clouds, but the light will be totally different and it will look odd. Whereas only a few degrees to the left and right of my shot on some gorgeous clouds, but not in line with the church. So we'll give that a go, and I'll probably see you in the office to see how it works. Right, it's a bit concerning. This time it's just finished. On the S1 it gives you an option to render a video out straight in camera, which can be really helpful just for like a quick, it only takes a couple of minutes just to render out a 4K video, and you can preview it immediately instead of swiping through slowly on the settings. So on the playback. Problem is it's just taken about 10 minutes. It's stuttered on the it just kept saying please wait. So I'm a bit worried that card has either failed or is going to fail. So I've taken that one out, put a new one in, and hopefully that should be okay. The next one I'll test it again, see if it gets stuck on the render out, or on the render of that video. If it does, then I'm a bit concerned about the camera, but we'll just see. The good news is that because that's finished, I can now use this at the same focal length to get the clouds over that side. So hopefully it shouldn't be too much of a jarring in focal length when we come to merge the two time lapses. Hello all, welcome to the office. This is back in the UK, back from Malta now. I've been back for a few days or so. There was definitely a problem with the time lapse. It's not ruined, but it's really annoying what it's done. I'll show you on here actually now. So look at this photo here. It looks quite nice. It looks quite good. There's decent amount of sharpness. It looks quite nice. Yeah, it looks okay. If we go to the next photo, yeah, I can't understand why it's done that. I really don't know why it's corrupted the photo, and it wouldn't be too bad if it was just doing just stills. If one was corrupted out of however I took 500, it'd be okay, just get rid of one. Can't do that with a time lapse, you'll have a jump in it. Luckily, it's done it in the first 35. This is photograph number 35. So, luckily, it's only, I've lost a second, basically. I've lost a second of footage, which isn't too bad. But it's also done it to another sequence on the same file, but in this time twice, in sequence. So 35 and 36 have gone. They've got the same bands across the photo. And that's done it on two separate SD cards. If it was on the same one, I would put it down to the SD card. Unfortunately, I'm putting it down to the Lumix, which is recording right now, which is really annoying. I've talked to Panasonic. They've basically said reset the settings and try it. It's not particularly helpful really, but I'll have to give it a test indoors just see whether it will do the same thing. But anyway, the point still stands with the technique I want to use, because luckily it's not doing it for all of them, it's just doing it for one. So we just discount 30, they're in the bin, it happens. But we can get on with the rest of them. So if we go and have a look at what I've done, it's been quite simple edits really. The white balance was a bit low, so I bumped that up to daylight, a little bit of magenta, tad a bit of exposure and contrast, brought down the highlights of the whites in the city over here, and boosted the shadows to the light. It was just a bit dark and didn't look particularly good. So I boosted that, just reset that. A little bit of texture, a little bit of vibrance. I rarely touch saturation. I usually use vibrance because I find that saturation is just too extreme. If I do it, it's maximum. I do it plus 10. If I do it any further than that, it just goes a bit nuclear. So I've not touched it on that, just on some vibrance. Not touched the tone curve. Added a little bit of saturation in the greens just to bring them out a little bit. Thought I did something else, that's about it. And then lens corrections. And that's pretty much it. Quite simple edits, but they work quite well. So if we go to the export, you can see that I was testing, I went to the length of installing Capture One because I thought it was the raw processor, like Lightroom, the processing would have somehow corrupted the files, but it's not. It's the raw files itself, so I can't do anything about it. Which one was it now? It was Media Overlook. So we've got all the files here. What we're going to do is discount all of them. They can go, we don't need them. And then we'll jump into Photoshop. Now I'm going to use Photoshop for this because I find it easier, and I find that if you want to do more edits with the photos, it works a lot better than Premiere Pro or After Effects, and it's a lot easier than After Effects. So we'll do File, Open, go back to the Overlook, and then just do an image sequence from that and open it. Whilst that's loading in, I will show you the clouds as well, because that's what we're adding in. So if we go over here, so these clouds were just over the side from the dome I was shooting. So the dome was that dome here. It was just over to the side, just over here-ish. But as you can see, there's nothing up here. It's boring as anything. Nothing up here. Why got the file we found? That's not very good. Yeah, they're all back now. Okay, phew. I moved all the files so they Lightroom not confused. Anyway, so these little clouds will be replacing it with. Let's go to the distributor. We don't need to have a look at the distributor. So yeah, same thing really. A little bit of exposure, a little bit of contrast. Up the white balance a bit. It looks a bit blue still, but I think that's just how the sky looked then, and it seems to have worked fine. So that should be okay. A little bit on highlights, texture, vibrance. That's pretty much it. It's quite a basic edit, just to bring out the cloud a little bit, and then profile corrections. So this should have loaded in now. Here we go. So this has created a video file for us now. We can press play on that. It will render out the just a little second for us. Let's get up to 1 second. Just about there. So if we play that back, you can see that it's given us a video file to play with. If you import this and it's not on, and you don't get the timeline, you just go up to the, I can't remember what it's called, this is the Essentials panel up here. Change it from Essentials to Motion, and then you get the timeline down here. So, that's a time lapse, that's a second of it. So what we do now is go to File Open again, and then find the cloud which we exported just before. Actually, I'll show you what my export settings are, just in case you're interested. So if we go to the cloud, select all of them, file export, and then I just choose where I want to set the folder to, give it a quick name, and then I customize the file number. So I basically scrap all this, put in custom text, and then insert sequence with 4 rows of numbers, just in case I get a time lapse which is thousands of photographs. I want to have that flexibility, and it's just quicker to set it up now and forget about it. Exporting JPEG because I don't really notice the difference between that and TIFF. If I need TIFF, then I'll export in TIFF, but the files are just huge. JPEG 100 quality. That's about it. If I need to add a watermark, I'll add a watermark here, but I don't need to. And then export that. I don't need to because I've already exported them, so go back to Photoshop and do the same thing, select the first one and then press image sequence, then open. And then I set all mine to 24 FPS. It just gives you a little bit more, it gives you a few more frames of time lapse if you need it. Right, so yeah, again, we've got another layer here, which is the video layer. We'll get that to 1 second again, so you should have a look. Just there. And you can see we have a time lapse of the clouds, which looks very nice. So, what we do from here is just grab the layer from the clouds, drag that straight over to the other tab and place it onto the work area of here, and then pop that below it. I should have put it there, it hasn't. Oh no, it's there, it's just moved it. So if you don't see it on time immediately, it's probably just put it down around here. So we just need to move that back to there, and then put that layer above it, actually. It keeps moving it, I don't know why it does that. Oh, it's in the same group, let's ungroup it then. And then put it above. Yes, just make sure it's not in the same group, and then you should be fine. Like that, and get that. Like so. So now what we need to do is get the horizon to line up with the horizon over here. I mean, you can do it that way, so you see there's a little gap there. If we zoom in. See there's a little gap here, you can align it like that. What I prefer to do is just reduce the opacity by half, put it around there, and then you can more accurately line up where the horizon would be. And if you see here, if we did put it exactly on the horizon, we have no clouds, so there's no point in doing that. So what I'm going to do, drag it down just a bit, so we get some of the clouds at the top. If we do it all the way down like this, the perspective will be wrong. It will just look weird. So there's no point in put it all the way down. So we'll just line it up until it looks good. I think about there looks good. And then all we do from here is just create a layer mask. So click on the little layer mask icon down there, add that to the clouds. And then if we paint in black, we can just remove all this very soft brush, quite large depending on what your file size is. How many, if you've got large images, you'll need a larger brush. And then just very slowly, just try and brush away where it intersects with the land. And then if you press backslash, you can see what you've removed. Zoom in a little bit. What you want to do really is leave a bit of overlap here. So you see how it's a bit of a gradient from the red, from the totally gone red to the, it's just sort of like etched in a little bit. If you have that really, really soft with the brush, if we start the brush again. Oh, that's wrong colour. And just leave a nice gradient. The soft brush will do that for you. If you just paint down here, you can see that it's still painting very, very faintly up here. So just give it a little bit of a brush. It doesn't have to be that accurate. This is the beauty of doing it in Photoshop. You can be quite rough with it and it still creates a great result. So if we get rid of that now, you can see that we've added in the clouds. And because we shot it at the same perspective, it still looks good. It still looks realistic. And we've gone from a very boring looking sky here to one with some actual interest in it. And it looks perfectly fine. You might notice this little tower over here. Oops, let's do that. I'll bring the opacity back up as well so you can actually see what you've done. So yeah, so that's before and that's after. So if we zoom in again and go all the way up here, you can see that the tower is sort of being lost in the clouds here. What you can do if you want is try and mask that out, but what I've found is that because it's mostly see-through anyway, even if it gets a bit lost up here with the other video clip, it doesn't matter. It looks more realistic if you leave it sort of like disappearing into the clouds. It gives a bit more perspective that way anyway, even though it's not technically correct. So if I show you what it would look like if I do mask it out like this, what you'll end up with is a halo around the tower. And that, if we zoom out, you can even see when it's zoomed out, it looks weird, so I don't bother with that and just leave it as it is. And you see how it just sort of melts into the sky and looks quite nice anyway. At this point, if you want, you can add some more adjustments. You can do your hue and saturation, you can do some sharpening if you want to. I'm going to leave it at that because unfortunately, when it corrupted that one file, the whole sequence looked quite fuzzy and weird. So unfortunately I'm not going to use this in the film, which is a shame really, but the concept still stands. The idea still stands. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but what you can do if you want, you can add some more layers, some more, you can do some luminosity masking if you need to. Just do whatever you need to do in Photoshop. So yeah, that's it for this by the look to it. That's quite nice. So to get it out as a file, we go to File, Export, and then Render Video. The little download box comes up, give it a name, let's just call it Medina. I'm pretty sure I'm spelling that wrong, but I will. Medina Overlook Sky Replacement. Put it in a folder, let's bob it in there, that'll do. And then unfortunately the maximum quality it will let you do is full 4K, or just a bit higher than 4K. You can't do 6 or 8 files 6K, which is annoying because these files are 6K files, but it's not too bad. What you should do also, if you don't want the aspect ratio, this is a 2:3 aspect ratio because that's what the camera shoots in. If you want a 16:9 aspect ratio just to put out immediately, you don't have to use a crop tool in in Photoshop just to get that back down 16:9, and then you can just reframe it. I'm going to save out there and then crop it, and then you've got a 16:9 image to export like that, and then you can just change this to 160, and that'll be 16:9, and then it should change, and then just change the aspect ratio to PAL widescreen, and then that should do you fine. I'm not going to do that because what I prefer to do is leave it as a big file, leave it 2x3, and then what I can do is crop in Premiere, and then whatever I lose on the top and bottom by getting rid of the black bars, I can use that room to pan up and down. So I can start it all the way down here, and then pan all the way up in Premiere, and that gives me more flexibility, and I prefer it to do it that way. So I've already exported this, I believe, so we don't need to do it again. If we go to export, where will it be? The clouds, maybe? Nope. Overlook, might be down here. Yes, it is. So if we open this, you shall see. Now you saw the little glitch there. Play that again. So we've started it from here, but can you notice that it's quite pixelated and looks a bit weird, just all over? So I'm not entirely sure why it's done that. The other ones look fine. Exporting through Photoshop, same settings, same everything. So it's just these files which for some reason don't work very well, but yeah, it's something happened with the export, not the export, the in camera when it was spinning. But as you can see, it looks pretty flawless. The tower looks good still over here. The clouds look excellent. We might notice, because there was a long photo length and it was windy, it bobs up and down a bit. You can either you can export two different files. So you can export the cloud file and the landscape file if you want to. Put that into Premiere, warp stabilizer, export it out as a 4K or 6K file, whatever you want, and then put that file into Photoshop, and then it will read it still, and you can use the masking in the same way we just did. Alternatively, you should be able to just stabilize this in Premiere, so that should work quite well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that worked quite well. Unfortunately, the file's corrupted, which isn't great. This is probably going to be vlog out of order, so I'm probably going to start with day 3 and probably go back to day 1. So that's going to be very helpful for you. So yeah, thanks for watching.